It's been a while since we were here last time, so I'll go over a couple of things. First of all, I hope everyone had a nice Hanukkah, inspiring Hanukkah, and I personally feel a tremendous rejuvenation, so to speak, from having maybe internalized some of those ideas and experiences a little more than usual. So, getting back to the Maharal and talking about Torah, I have to mention first of all that the Maharal he has a method that he generally takes on a particular Gemara, Agadata or something that he explains and analyzes in greater depth. It's on the subject. So this is basically the way he works. He wrote a multi-volume work on Agadata, on interpretations of Agadata and Shas. So this is one of his specialties, is to dafka, treat it that way. So that's basically his method. So I'm going to go. We started one of those Agadata last time, and we didn't finish it. So I'm going to go back over that and maybe go over it a little more briefly this time, but go over the main points. But then we'll get to the second one. So again, just to backtrack a little bit, just to refresh everyone's memory. His approach to the Torah is that it is showing us the way. In other words, we have a life is a journey and involves a lot of challenges, and we have to have something to on this path. We have to show where the path is, how not to deviate from the path, how to keep centered and be able to be concentrated, whatever, to have one derech and not to deviate from that, and also to have the vision to be able to see where the obstacles are and how to deal with the obstacles. And basically, Torah gives us that kind of benefit. He's really concentrating what are the benefits of Torah in a general way at this point. What are we getting out of it? How is it helping us? So we talked about this Gemara from Eruvin last time, where it's Omar Rabbi Shia ben Levi, Hamahalach b'derech ve'ein loy levoya, whatever. He's a person who goes on a way and he doesn't have anything to accompany him. Is yasuk b'Torah. He should be yosek in Torah. He should be involved in Torah. Shneimar ki livias chen. So it's calling the Torah something that accompanies you, something with chen that accompanies you. And then he goes through a whole list of different parts of the body that this involves, and then later he's going to interpret what those mean. So it's chash b'roisho, if he has a headache after the Torah. Shneimar brings a posik, chen l'roshechu. So it's again, this word chen is used also in terms of which is referring to Torah, is used in terms of the head. Chash b'groino, if he feels some kind of sore throat, yeah. Yasuk b'Torah, Shnema ve'anukim legargaroi sechu. It's also like jewels for like a necklace for the neck. Chash b'bnei me'ayim, if he feels some kind of internal, in his internal organs he's having problems. Yasuk b'Torah, Shnema rifus tihi l'shorechu. I guess shorechu is also a reference to inner organs. And so I call it rifus, like something's going to a trufa, something's going to help is going to heal him. Chashba atzmoisav, if he feels pain in his bones. Yasuk b'Torah, Shnema v'shiki le'atzmaisechu, also a reference to something that's healing for the bones. Chash b'chol gifoy, if he feels something in his entire body. Yasuk b'Torah, Shnema l'chol b'surei marpe, all of his flesh is healed by the Torah. So it's talking about the Torah as being like a healing influence, something that is taking these various problems associated with different parts of the body and correcting them, giving a refuah for that. Then he goes to another memory. This is Rabbi Hida Berei de Rabbi Chia, Boy Urei Shaloikim Midas HaKadosh Baruch Hu Midas Bosav Adam. So there's a difference between many differences between Hashem and people and man. Noisen l'chaveru sam. So he's pointing out that when on more of a human level, when people give a remedy for a particular problem a person's having, that it'll be good for one person and it could be mamash poison to another person. Every person reacts to it differently, but and also different parts of the body affected differently. There's always very often side effects and different negative consequences for another part of the body. Whereas he says for the Torah, you don't have to worry about that because it's good for the entire body, as it says, l'chol b'sorei marpe. It heals the entire body. Okay, so we talked about this idea that the druchim in general, the pathways that a person goes through in life, are full of all kinds of obstacles and dangerous aspects that a person has to deal with. So that's the idea of having something to accompany you, that you can't just do it on your own without having the proper directions, without having advice, what to look out for, what to watch for, and having somebody to guide you that's not only going to be able to help you avoid the difficulties, but also to help you out if you do get into a rough spot, to get you through it. So, if you have like a guard or something, a convoy or, some kind of, this idea of being accompanied by someone who knows his way around. So that's, so you can't just do it on your own. So that's the idea of the Torah, is giving you that accompaniment, that shmira. He's helping you to identify what are the problems and how to deal with them, how to avoid them, and how to deal with them. So, so he's going into, just skip to where he's talking about these specific parts of the body that is referencing and what they refer to. So first of all, there's the idea of the Rosh, of course, and the Rosh is being the head of the body. That's really the main. That's something that affects everything else in terms of one's outlook and to know how to handle life in general. That's the seichel. He has to have seichel. So how do you train the seichel to think in the right ways and to, again, know how to analyze situations and to concentrate on the right things. The Torah is not just a source of information. The Torah is, above all, a training of how to think. We talk about the Koreans took on learning Gemara because they figure that the Jews are so smart. It must be because they're learning Gemara. But the fact is, it's not so far off in a sense because other than the talents and the abilities that Hashem has given us in order to fulfill His Torah and be His ambassadors on earth, the fact is that Torah is that the Gemara, above all, is a method of analyzing reality and making decisions about what are the options and what's the best way to go. I'm learning Daf Yomi now, and just even if you don't get every point and you don't always come to a conclusion of what to do in any given situation, the whole thing is the shaklatataria, the banter, the back and forth, how to analyze things and how to say, well, this couldn't be like this, it must be like this, and he didn't really mean this, or he only meant this in this particular situation. The whole idea of the way that Gemara deals with life very often has nothing to do with how realistic the situation that you're defining is. It could be that something could either never happen or something that would happen very, very rarely in terms of the situations that you come up with. But it's a way of analyzing the statements that the Rabbanim have made and fitting them to a given scenario where things then make sense, whereas before you didn't understand them at all, how they can be reconciled. So that's a very, very basic importance of the Torah itself. So if a person is having headaches, meaning he's confused by life and he doesn't know which way to turn, this very often is because he doesn't know how to make sense out of a given situation he's faced with. He doesn't know how to take it apart and to analyze it in such a way that he can make an intelligent decision of how to handle it, especially when we're talking about things involving moral decisions and right and wrong type of situations. So the Torah gives him that seichel. Then after that he talks about the guroin, which is the throat is lower than the head, where the seichel lives. So, but the goyin is the place of the dibur. That's where we speak from. So we know that this idea of machshava, dibur, and maisa, that there's a kind of a hierarchy. It's an order of machshava, thought, speech, and deed. So that actually corresponds to the spheres, the moichen, which is chachma bin das, and then you go to the upper area of the body, which is where the arms and the torso is. That's Chesed Gvur Tiferes, and then you get the lower, which is the more the Maisa, which is the next to Klal V'Soid, the bottom half of the body. But the idea of the middle part of the body is the lungs and the heart and this area that is more involved with expression. So in order for anything to really complete, or certainly for a thing to come from concept into action, you have to have this machshava divrei ma'aseh. You have to go through all the steps. So somebody just asked me today if it's really necessary to say, when you're learning, to say out the words, or can you just learn kind of meditating on the words, or just without actually speaking it? And we were discussing it. I was telling him that really, in order for it to be a complete thing, al pi Torah, it's really important to say out the words. And then the very moving of the lips and the lungs and everything is also an aspect of action. So it's not only for the completion of the thing itself, but it says that you don't really understand or retain the information as well if you don't speak it out. So speaking itself is an important aspect of an extension of the seichel, the intellect, to be able to get it out through speech as well. Then he talks about the aspect of b'nei me'av, which are the internal organs. He says that the internal organs, like the lungs and the lave and the liver and these kinds of things also all have spiritual implications, and they are also things that bring the seichel into action, into fruition. And he says that the Torah is also able to give to remedy these things on this level as well. So it's not a totally intellectual thing. It's also deals with the emotions, and it deals with the way we respond to things that are more internal. And then the idea of the atzumas, of the bones, is talking about the binyan ha'udam, the way the person is built, and it's able to give a person healing on that level as well, and even to the point of the body as a totality. So he says here, yesh shinui b'chol dover ha'toyra shel udam she seder ha'olam v'acharecha yemushech ha'olam hi machzeres ha'udam el seder sheloi. So this is his other major point here, is that again the world, because Hashem looked into the Torah as being the blueprint for the creation of the world, the Torah is the seder ha'olam. So it's very much a part of this idea of being a totality, because the world is not, like in the modern view, we tend to specialize into specific things, and we're very into breaking apart the whole and dealing with each thing as a specialty, and you don't have to look at the thing as a, one of the big things that was in the 60s, the 70s, when you got into this wholeness thing about looking at the gestalt, right? This whole idea of putting everything together as opposed to breaking things apart. So the Torah, because it has so many, it's so all-encompassing, and it has so many different aspects to it, it's really able to give us that seder of a totality, putting everything in its place. So that's one of the things that this is getting across. And it's a seichel elokי. This is a godly seichel. It's not just a human seichel. So it's not just a matter of figuring things out. It's something it's a light that's shining down on us from a higher place, that's giving us insight into things from a much different perspective. And he talks about the whole idea of the holy nefesh, that the Torah is again, the holy nefesh is talking about psychological problems, which can also deal from an imbalance. Things that we're not putting things in their proper priorities or their proper perspective is also something that is out of the balance and the order of things as it's supposed to be, and the Torah gives them back to us. It's also it also is mashpia. It's as an effect on the koiches of the guf. And this is something I just experienced recently, as I was wondering if I really have koyach to do this shear. I have to shoot him on this Monday night and Tuesday night and come out another night. I was thinking that maybe it's too much, and for a while I was thinking about the the fact that, I have a fairly demanding schedule, and it takes a lot of koiches out of you. So when you take on another mitzvah, so you feel like, do I have koyach for this? Am I going to have enough koyach to expend? But really, that's based on a mistake. It's a mistake in our thinking, because when we really see that Hashem is the source of all energy, He's the source of all creation. He's the one who put us here, and the mitzvahs are the way that He and Torah and mitzvahs are the way that He transmits that energy into the world. So therefore, the more Torah and mitzvahs we do, the more energy we have. It's actually that if you're really looking at Torah and mitzvahs rather than sapping your strength, of taking energy out of you, if you look at it as something that is actually replenishing your strength and giving you more energy, then the more mitzvahs you do, the better. The more energetic and the more lively you're going to be. And we see this stuck in the fact that there are some very, very old tzaddikim that, going into the 90s, even over 100, full of life, and they were doing things that are doing whatever, things that, even a younger person would have a hard time doing. So we see bechish, we see mamash, in front of us examples of people that are mamash an example of that rather than making them weaker over time, they get stronger over time. You can become more youthful over time. So if you are being tired out by doing mitzvahs, or you have an attitude like, how can I do another thing? Can I put something else into my schedule? It's probably the result of improper thinking, improper attitude about what Torah is to begin with. And this is really what he's saying. He's saying that the Torah has a direct effect on health, has a direct effect on state of mind, has a direct effect on just if we are feeling, grounded and with a purpose and with a meaning, and we're able to see things in a true balanced perspective. He's not talking about jumping off roofs. He's not talking about dancing around like a whirling dervish. He's not talking about things that this ecstatic kind of expression of Yiddishkeit. He's talking about a very level-headed, seichel-dik, approach to that's guided by Torah, and that shows us what the world really is. And when you get into that and you realize that is what Torah really is, it's very encouraging. It's very exciting, really, because it's saying that what Torah is doing is gradually, over a period of time, through a gradual process of maturation and seeing things on higher and higher levels, it's opening up more and more doors, gateways and pathways and perspectives and things that are just always showing us a new way of approaching things that we didn't think of before. And it's because it's just want to say that it's an incremental thing. As you're building, just like the lights of Hanukkah, it's moisif v'hoilach. You're setting something down and you're adding to it. So in the same sense, when you learn Torah, you're putting down foundations and you're building on those foundations, and then it's solid and it's leading you to a higher place.
That sounds great. How do you differentiate between that and what we understood is that the Satan uses trickery to entice you to do a mitzvah, too many mitzvot, so that you exhaust yourself and then you can't do the basic mitzvah that you were doing before?
Okay, that's a good question, and I think that if it involves a lot of things. It's one thing is that perhaps above all is that we have to have the proper concept of time. This is something I've learned just relatively recently to really approach this in a completely different way. Time is very elastic. You can a lot of our approach, our utilization of time has to do with our degree of focus. It's very, very easy to waste time in all kinds of things that we're barely conscious of the fact that we're wasting it. Mm-hmm. And time just slips away, if you become conscious of really how you're using your time and where you want to invest your efforts, and which things are worth it and which things are extra that really can be cut out, you will find that you have a lot more time for the things that are important, as opposed to all of, wasting time on all the things that are not important. So the first thing to do before evaluating, do I have it? Because if you're running after, the thing always, you always feel like you're behind, that takes koiches. That's stress. It takes away energy. You feel like you're not accomplishing things. It's demoralizing. But if you're on top of your schedule and you see, I have a place for this and that, then you just, if you're really maximizing your time, and you say, I just don't have a slot for this. So then you can say no. But if you always feel like, well, I don't really know what I'm doing anyway, so who cares? I'll do something else besides, then it's not going to work because that's not coming from seichel. It's coming from just, well, it really sounds good, how can I pass this up? So in a sense, like this is the situation also. I figure, if somebody's asking me to give a shiur, so how can I say no? But I really didn't know how I was going to do it. Now I have a much better idea of how I'm spending my time, so therefore it's not a problem. And besides which, I don't look at this same. It's attitude. If you look at something with a certain degree of dread, right, because you know that really this is really worth it. I really want to do it, but how am I going to manage this? But that's attitude. And so if you look at that thing, that if I'm moisif this activity, that's going to give me more koyach because if it's the idea of schora betzida. When you do this whole idea of mitzvah gerin and mitzvahs. Why does mitzvah gerin and mitzvah? Because it's giving you more energy. You can take on another mitzvah besides. You can do much more than you thought you could do, and have a good attitude towards it. But if it's bringing you down, and you're feeling overwhelmed, to begin with, then it's coming from a much more internal, deeper source. Interesting. I don't have a watch. I don't know what time it is. I might.
Still 10 minutes.
Have 10 minutes? Okay, great. Okay, so he says this idea about the nefesh, the holy nefesh. He says the chet nemachshovahi, the Kamadur. He says that very often the chet, the avera, is in your mind. It's coming from a source in the way you're thinking. So if you're coming into an avera, it's starting in the mind. And if you take the part of the Torah that's dealing with that aspect of the mind, then you can find a refuah in the Torah for that hate that you're experiencing. So it's not just a matter of castigating yourself and feeling guilty and, clapping your, al hate and this kind of thing. That's not, if it's not coming into a deeper understanding of what's the source of the problem, you're not going to be able to conquer it. Because the Torah works on the mind itself, and therefore you can get to the core of the problem, then you can actually save yourself from that problem. And he talks about the idea of the b'nei me'av, the internal organs being the source of taiva and kina and those kinds of negative emotions. Then the more you're involved in Torah, you more realize that's the reasons why that's totally inappropriate and doesn't make any sense. So then again, you're going to the source of the problem. It's the same thing, really, the same thing in refuah. What's a good doctor? A good doctor doesn't just look at the external symptom. He sees the external symptom as a way to get to the real core of the problem. Either if it's a lifestyle problem or if it's an emotional problem, whatever the real source of it is, where it's coming from, then you can have a true refuah. But if it's something that you're just treating the symptom, then it's not going to go anywhere. So the same thing with the Torah itself. Because the Torah is dealing with the source, the core of the person himself, so therefore you have a chance of getting to the real source of what's going on. Okay, so we'll start out at least on this next Agadita that he's dealing with. It's from Masechtas Soita. Zi durish Rabbi Menachem bar Rabbi Yossi, ki ner mitzvah v'toira oir. So this is a very, very simple statement. He says that a mitzvah is compared to a candle, and Torah is compared to the light. So he says, Tola akusev es ha-mitzvah b'ner, v'es ha-Torah b'oir. Ma ner, so how is Torah compared to the light and the mitzvah compared to a candle? Ma ner einoi megin el l'fishu, af mitzvah einoi megina el l'fishu. Ima oir megin l'oilam, af Torah megin l'oil. So what's the comparison? That it's a question of time, the time aspect. Just as the candle itself only works temporarily, it's got it runs out of fuel at a certain point. So the same thing that the mitzvah only is protecting you. It's only shielding you for a limited period of time, which is usually the amount of time that you're spending doing the mitzvah itself. Whereas the idea of oyer, light, as a phenomenon in itself, is something that lasts, has potential to last forever, because you're talking about the light itself as a yasoid, as an element. So the Torah is also the same way. The Torah itself is able to protect you and shield you forever. So he says there's a posik. He quotes a posik. Yishalechechu tanche oisach olam hazeh. Yishalechechu tanche oisach. When you're going, it's talking about movement. So then it's going to be a rest for you. What does it mean by olam hazeh? B'shach b'cho tishmor lechu zeh misa v'kitzoyso yisichechu olam habu. So it's one long posik that has three parts to it. One part is what's going on in this world. So it's when you're moving. So it's protecting you then. B'shach b'cho tishmor lechu. When you lie down, that's referring to misa, after you die. That's probably after Olam Habu, meaning probably after Chiyas HaMesim, that it's going to give you life then as well. So in other words, the Torah is protecting us and giving us this direction, and this world is only a third, not even that, because really in terms of the time span, it's much less than percentage-wise. To us, it's the whole thing, but really it's a very small part of the picture. It's protecting us in this world, but then what happens after you die? So the Torah is going to protect you after you die as well. And then what happens in Olam Haba after Chiyas HaMesim? It's going to give you your life then. So the whole basis of the when you look at the whole picture of the existence of man and what the existence of the neshama, is talking about that the Torah is the basis of survival, not only survival, but the whole, what that life is like, how you experience that period of life is all dependent on the Torah. So in all those three periods. Mushal udam shahayim halach b'derech beishon laila. So he gives a metaphor to a person that's going on a derech in the middle of the night, a very dark night. Misyorim and a koitzin in barkanim. So he's afraid that he doesn't see where he's going, so he could be, even if he's on the path itself, there could be various thorns or things, barriers in the way that he could trip on or whatever, and that he's also afraid of chayarua, which is like wild animals, or listim, or thieves, burglars. And he doesn't know which way to go, which derech necessarily to go. So he's really afraid of three different things. He's afraid of, number one, that he could trample on something that's going to hurt him. The second thing is he's afraid that he could be attacked by a wild animal or by hooligans. And the third one is that he's going to lose his way. He's going to take the wrong turn someplace. He's not going to know which way to go. So he gets a torch. So the torch is going to protect him. Now he can see where he's going, so he doesn't have to worry about running into something that's going to hurt him. But the torch is not going to save him necessarily from the animals or from the burglars. So that's still not going to be an eitzah for him. So he says. But then the sun comes up. So now he doesn't have to worry about so much about the wild animals and the bad people, because they don't come out during the day. They're mainly only active at night. But then he still has to worry about which way he's going to go. So he comes to a Parshas Druchim. So then he's nitzal mikilam. So he comes to a parting of the paths. Now this one is a little bit hard to understand until you understand the explanation for it. Is that when there's a fork in the road, then if he chooses the right way to go, then he's on the right path. Now, how does he know not to choose the other way? But obviously, if it's the Nimshal is talking about Torah, so the Torah is telling him which path to go on. So he's able to make the right decision as to which way to go. So he says, the explanation is like this: the Torah is sichlis. The Torah is intellectual, and the Torah is that it also doesn't come, as we said before, the idea that the Torah is compared to oyer. it does not fall under time. It's not affected by time. The Torah is eternal. The wisdom is eternal. What we learn from it is eternal. It's already existed for so long, and it goes beyond time. Also, in terms of being oisek b'Torah, you can learn Torah any time during the day. So it's not limited by a specific time that you can do it, and times that you can't. So therefore, it says that the Torah is constantly protecting us. Because it's not affected by time. Because it doesn't have any, time, over time things change. So because it's above time, therefore the Torah doesn't change. But mitzvah, megina lizman, the mitzvah is only a temporary thing. Because the mitzvah is done by the body, and the body is affected by time. So therefore, you have a limitation there, and it's dependent on Maisa. The goof itself is dependent on and conditional on time. Any gashmistic thing can't be dependent on forever, and it also can be cut off at some point. But the idea that it takes you somewhere. That Torah he seder olam he seder is shmira he shomer oisoy min a hefsid. So something that is guarding you is going to make sure that you don't lose anything, that you don't lack anything. The kach omer sheim ya oisek b'Torah yeda sheyesh nishman min a hefsid. So once you're oisek b'Torah, you have the confidence that it's going to protect you from loss. Moshe Torah seder v'kiyam hakol. In this world, a man is called that he's going, he's walking, he's moving. The person doesn't stop moving. Stop moving is the problem. So anyways, the clouds. So because he's moving, it's possible at any minute that he could do something wrong, and he's gonna come to do something wrong, and he's gonna come to loss. The kacha Torah he said to Metzias shemeres oisam alicha oisoy sheloi yuvo lidei heder. It was because a person is vulnerable. A person is always moving. He's always doing things. And this idea of the middle oilam, he always has to watch himself because you never know what he can end up doing. So because the Torah is always with him, it never leaves him. It's a constant thing. So therefore, you never have to worry that you're going to get out of control or you're going to not know what to do or whatever. It's always at his side, and it's always directing him and showing what to do. And if he's following the Torah, then it's going to protect him from getting into trouble. So and coming to that kind of loss. Olam habo. So he says, "Sheyachso udam lechayim." Wait a second. Said it was Yishmeres udam min hafsiyah. So in the Olam haba, sheyachso udam lechayim, when a person returns to life after Tchias Hamesim, when you wake up again, it's going to be there for you. Is from the lotion of sicha, which is dibber, which is speech. But the person that dies and goes into the ground, into the Gehenna, whatever it is, it never comes up, never comes back, so he doesn't have dibber, because the dead people don't talk. He seder hametzias, and all this is because the Torah is the actual form, the actual order of existence itself. The Havaya gives him existence. All these three times we talked about. And it keeps him from losing anything because it's always with him. He's dovek b'Torah.
Very good. But how do you explain people who keep the Torah and still go into financial loss? Or going, not just a Torah. You have to have a mentor to direct you.
Did he ask the right shilas? Did he, go to the right people? Did he look at the right? Just being shoyim Torah mitzvahs is not the answer. It's a little more. Demands a little more than that. But if you're committed to the Torah, no, it has everything in it. But you have to know how to access it,
right.
And you also have to have the commitment to search for it. That's a very, very big thing. If a person is really searching, Hashem will show it to him. But he has to be sincere that he's really searching. A lot of people, there's also people on Nagei B'Dover. They have their own ideas of what they want. So very often people find excuses to do what they want as opposed to what the Torah wants. And they may even be afraid to know what the Torah wants because then I'm going to have to follow the Torah and I'm not going to do what I want to do. So the whole thing is based, and I'm realizing this more and more. It's just, it's a very broad subject. You can spend a whole hour on that. But the idea is that we're here to perform the Rotzen Hashem. Hashem is very big. Hashem put us here. Hashem knows everything about us. Hashem gave us everything, right? Hashem has a plan for us. Hashem has a plan for us in the context of the entire Bria and what our job is to accomplish here. I was thinking, like, people are worried that in the world, you're worried about two things. You're worried about that I need to have my needs taken care of, and I want my wants to be taken care of. Mm-hmm. So the needs are things that I absolutely have to have, and the wants are things that I want, right? Mm-hmm. If we realize that if we're committed to Hashem, and we're really dedicated to Hashem, Hashem is going to take care of our needs. Mm-hmm. If we are dedicated to doing Hashem's rutzen, then we're doing what Hashem wants. We don't have to worry about what we want. So you're immediately taking care of these two basic things that everybody makes the priority in their lives. Mm-hmm. And really, if you turn it around, I use a mashal. It's the difference between the soldier as opposed to the citizen, right? So the citizen is basically using out the country he lives in for his needs. I pay my taxes, I do what I have to do, but really I care about what it's doing for me. Like Kennedy said, ask them what you could do, whatever. So you're asking, you want it to do for you. When a soldier is committed to saving to protecting the country, right? He has to be dedicated. He has to believe in it. He has to want to do that. He has to be willing to give his life for it. So his whole thing is that the army is going to give me what I need. That I don't have to worry about my own needs, and my whole life is based on working for the good of the public, for working for the good of the country. So I don't have to worry about what I want to do. They're going to tell me what I should do. They're going to put me here, put me there, whatever. That's what a yid is a soldier in Hashem's army. You hear that all the time. What's the implication of that? We don't have to worry about our own needs and wants. The only thing is that we do have to know is we have to understand ourselves, because we do have certain options, and we can steer ourselves in certain directions. So we can decide for ourselves, Hashem has shown me certain signs of where He wants to be, number one. Number two, I know myself, and I know what I'm good at, and what, the kishroinus, the talents that Hashem has given me, and where I think my talents will be best applied. But it's all for Hashem. It's not just that I want something out of it. That's all I did with lishma. Lishma means it's for the sake of Hashem. It's not just for me. So you just take care of 99% of the problems right there. If you really change your attitude to that. So then if you see that a certain thing doesn't work out, you thought that this was going to work and it didn't turn out to be a bad investment or whatever it was. First of all, you know that that's also from Hashem. Hashem is trying to show you something with that. You're also learning from that experience. And you're also knowing that even if it didn't go, so the next thing will go. I mean, it's not like now I'm people who get, I really can't stand this. People get this yish, this idea of this when they get desperate or they feel like, now my life is over. It's like what, Hashem didn't know that this was going to happen. Hashem doesn't have a plan for you, where you're going to go, what you're going to be. He didn't put you here for a reason. It's just blowing Hashem out of the picture. Like Hashem's not there at all. And really Hashem is the one who orchestrated the whole thing. So all this stuff doesn't make any sense when you, and that's what the Maharal is about. Things should make sense. People don't think a lot of times with their seichel. They think with their emotions. They think with the way they were brought up. They think about how the rest of the world thinks. They're not thinking with a clear seichel. When you get down to what the Torah seichel is, when the Torah wants you, the way the Torah wants you to think, it takes care of all these things.
Well done.